Yasya yato niviyad itaratascha avigyaswarat.
Janmadyasya yatam vayaritartascha tesvavigyaswarat.
Tene Brahma Hridaya Adhikavaye Muyanti Yatsurayaha.
Tene Brahma Hridaya Adhikavaye Muyanti Yatsurayaha.
Tejo Varimadam Yata Vinimayo Yatra Trisargo Misha.
Tejo Varimrida Jata Vinimayo Jatra Trisargo Misha.
Damna Svena Sada Nirasta Kuhakam Satyam Param Dhimahi.
Damna Svena Sada Nirasta Kuhakam Satyam Param Dhimahi.
O my Lord Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva.
O my Lord Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva.
O all-pervading personality of Godhead.
O all-pervading personality of Godhead.
For my respectful obeisances unto you.
For my respectful obeisances unto you.
I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth.
I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth.
And the primeval cause of all causes.
And the primeval cause of all causes.
Of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of the manifested universes.
Of the creation, sustenance, destruction of the manifested universes.
He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations.
He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations.
And he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him.
And he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him.
It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto Brahmaji.
It is only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji.
The original living being.
The original living being.
By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion.
By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion.
As one is bewildered by the illusory representations.
As one is bewildered by the illusory representations.
Of water seen on fire or land seen on water.
Of water seen on fire or land seen on water.
Only because of him do the material universes.
Only because of him do the material universe.
Temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature.
Temporarily manifested by the reaction of the three modes of nature.
Appear factual, although they are unreal.
Appear factual, although they are unreal.
I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna.
I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna.
Who is eternally existent in a transcendental abode.
Who is eternally existent in a transcendental abode.
Which is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world.
Which is forever free from the illusory representation of the material world.
I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth.
I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth.
Dharma projita kaitravotcha.
Dharma projita kaitavotra.
Paramo nirmatsaranam satam.
Paramo nirmatsaranam satam.
Vedyam vastavam atra vastu.
Vedyam vastavam atra vastu.
Shivadam tapa trayon bhuvanam.
Shivadam tapa trayon bhuvanam.
Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite.
Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite.
Kimva parir Ishwaraha.
Kimva parir Ishwaraha.
Sadyo hridi avrudyatecha.
Sadyo hridi avrudyatetra.
Kriti bihi sususubis takshanat.
Kriti bihi sususubis takshanat.
Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated.
Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated.
This Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest truth.
This Bhagavata Purana propounds the high truth.
Which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart.
Which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in the heart.
The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all.
The high truth is the reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all.
Such truth uproots the threefold miseries.
Such a truth uproots the threefold miseries.
This beautiful Bhagavatam compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity.
This beautiful Bhagavatam compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in its maturity.
It's sufficient in itself for God realization.
It's sufficient in itself for God realization.
What is the need of any other scripture?
What is the need of the other scripture?
As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam.
As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam.
By this culture of knowledge.
By this culture of knowledge.
The Supreme Lord is established within his heart.
The Supreme Lord is established within his heart.
Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam.
Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam.
Sukhamakad amrita dravya samyutam.
Sukhamakad amrita dravya sangitam.
Pibata Bhagavatam rasam alayam.
Pibata Bhagavatam rasam alayam.
Muhur ahorasika bhuvibavukaha.
Muhur ahorasika bhuvibavuka.
O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad Bhagavatam.
O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad Bhagavatam.
The mature fruit of the desire tree of Vedic literatures.
The mature fruit of the desire tree of Vedic literatures.
It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami.
It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami.
Therefore this fruit has become even more tasteful.
Therefore this fruit has become even more tasteful.
Although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all.
Although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all.
including liberated souls.
including liberated souls.
Shinvatam swakata Krishna,
Shrimvatam Swakata Krishna,
Punya Shravana Kirtana,
Punya Shravana Kirtana,
Hridyantaksto Hyabadrani,
Vidyantastu Hyabhadrani,
Vidunati Srihitsatam.
Vidunoti Surisatam.
To hear about Krishna from Vedic literatures,
To hear about Krishna from the Vedic
or to
literature,
hear from him directly through the Bhagavad Gita,
or to hear from it directly from the Bhagavad Gita,
is itself righteous activity.
it is self-righteous activity.
And for one who hears about Krishna,
And for one who hears about Krishna,
Lord Krishna is dwelling in everyone's heart,
Lord Krishna is dwelling within everyone's heart,
acts as a best wishing friend,
acts as his best wishing friend,
and purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him.
and he purifies his body, constantly engaged with hearing of him.
Nastapresu abhadresu
Nasta prayeshwa bhadreshu
nityam bhagavata sevaya
nityam bhagavata sevaya
bhagavati uttamasloke
bhagavati uttama sloke
bhaktir bhavati naistiki.
bhakti bhavati naistiki.
In this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge.
In this way, devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge.
As he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam
As he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam
and from the
and
devotees,
from the devotees,
he becomes fixed in the transcendental service of the Lord.
he becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord.
Tadarajastamo bhava
Tadarajastamo bhava
kamalobhadayaschaye
kamalobhadayaschaye
chete taranavidam
chetaitaranavidan
stitvam sattve prasidati.
stitam sattve prasidhati.
By development of devotional service,
By development of devotional service,
one becomes freed from the modes of passion and ignorance,
one becomes freed from the modes of passion of ignorance,
and thus material lust and avarice are diminished.
and thus material lust and avarice are diminished.
Evam prasanna manaso
Evam prasanna manas
Bhagavat Bhakti Yogataha
Bhagavat Bhakti Yoga
Bhagavat Tattva Vijnanam
Bhagavat Tattva Vijnana
Mukta Sangasya Jayate.
Mukta Sangasya Jayate.
When these impurities are wiped away,
When these impurities are wiped
the
away,
candidate remains steady in his position of pure goodness,
the candidate remains steady in his position of pure goodness,
becomes enlivened by devotional service,
becomes enlivened by devotional service,
and understands the science of God perfectly.
and understands the science of God perfectly.
Vidyate Hridaya Grantis
Vidhyate Hridaya Grantis
Chidyante Sarvasamsaya
Chidyante Sarva Samshaya
Shiyante Jasya Karmani
Chidyante Chasya Karmani
Drista Evatmanishware.
Drusta Evadmanishvare.
Thus Bhakti Yoga severs the hard knot of material affection
Thus the Bhakti Yoga severs the harness of material affection
and enables one to come at once to the stage of a samsayam samagrama,
and enables one to come at once to the stage of Samshaya Samagrama,
understanding of the supreme absolute truth personality of Godhead.
understanding of the supreme absolute true personality of Godhead.
Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee in Krishna consciousness
Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from the devotees in Krishna consciousness
can one understand the science of Krishna.
can one understand the science of Krishna.
Srimad Bhagvatam, Canto 1, Chapter 18, text number 48. Is it 48 or 49?
No, 48.
48, yeah. Tiraskrita vipralabdha
Tiraskrita vipralagdha
sapta shipta hata api
Sapta kripta hata api
nasyatat pratikurvanti
Nasyatat pratikurvanti
tad bhakta prabhavo pihi.
Tad bhakta prabhavo pihi.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. The devotees of our Lord are so forbearing that even though they are defamed, cheated, cursed, disturbed, neglected, or even killed, they are never inclined to avenge themselves. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Rishi Samikya also knew that the Lord does not forgive a person who has committed an offense at the feet of a devotee. The Lord can only give direction to take shelter of the devotee. He thought within himself that if Maharaj Parikshit would counter-curse the boy, he might be saved. But he knew also that a pure devotee is callous about worldly advantages or reverses. As such, the devotees are never inclined to counteract personal defamation, curses, negligence, etc. As far as such things are concerned, in personal affairs, the devotees do not care for them. But in the case of their being performed against the Lord and his devotees, then the devotee takes very strong action. It is a personal affair, and therefore Samikya Rishi knew that the king would not take counteraction. Thus, there was no alternative than to place an appeal to the Lord for the immature boy. It is not that only the Brahmanas are powerful enough to award curses and blessings upon the subordinates. The devotee of the Lord, even though he may not be a Brahmana, is more powerful than a Brahmana. But a powerful devotee never misuses the power for personal benefit. Whatever power the devotee may have is always utilized in service toward the Lord and his devotees only. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So there's a very important point here. The Lord does not forgive a person who has committed an offense at the feet of a devotee. Even if the devotee forgives the person, the Lord is not inclined to forgive the person. The Lord can only give direction to take shelter of the devotee. Well, that's what happened in the case of Durvasa Muni and Ambarish Maharaj. Although the Lord sent his Sudarshan Chakra to chase Durvasa Muni and ultimately to kill him, when Durvasa Muni, he had the power to go to see the Lord. And most people, almost everyone's not able to do that, but he had that power. And when he saw the Lord said, I can't do anything. He said, what do you mean you can't do anything? It's your Sudarshan Chakra. You're the one that ordered it to go after me, and it's coming after me. He said, yes, but there's only one person that can stop it. I said, well, who's that? He said, that is Ambarish Maharaj. So Ambarish Maharaj had to go back to the person that he insulted and tried to kill and tried to ruin him completely and beg for his mercy. But because Ambarish Maharaj is a pure devotee, he forgave him. So, therefore it says, the Lord can only give direction to take shelter of the devotee. One cannot really supplicate the Lord directly. One has to do it through his pure devotee. He thought within himself that if Maharaj Parikshit would counter-curse the boy, he might be saved. But he knew that a pure devotee is callous about worldly advantages or reverses. So, a devotee does not waste his time trying to get revenge or badla. He does not try to reverse negative situations. He accepts everything, or the devotee, he or she accepts everything as the mercy of the Lord, but accepts difficulties as an opportunity to become more serious about Krishna consciousness. Whereas the materialist, who is engaged in some kind of pious activities, when there are reverses, he gets disgusted and says, see, this proves there's no God. I was praying to him all the time. I was making offerings to him. And look what he's done to me. Therefore, I'm not going to worship God anymore. So what do such people do? They just take the refuge of Maya. And they think, my salvation is making more money, becoming powerful, having political aspirations, and this thing and that thing. And they make so many now material plans for being successful and give up, depending on Krishna or God, and give up doing so-called pious activities. So that just shows how little people understand about God. And what happens here is that's why this story about Parikshit Maharaj is in the Bhagvatam, because it's explaining what is the behavior of a real devotee. On the other hand, the real devotee, of course, is not so interested in defending himself or reversing negative situations. But if someone insults Krishna or insults or hurts other devotees, then the devotee becomes fierce and will do everything to counter that person who's causing pain to the devotees or to Krishna. Of course, Krishna never feels any pain, but who is blaspheming Krishna. So, as such, the devotees are never inclined to counteract personal defamation, curses, negligence, etc. As far as such things are concerned, in personal affairs, the devotees do not care for them. But in the case of their being performed against the Lord and his devotees, then the devotee takes very strong action. It was a personal affair, and therefore Samika Rishi knew that the king would not take counteraction. Now that's the main point right there. This is a question of predictability. And when there's predictability, one develops faith. So, if someone says, oh, I know this person, and I know the principles that this person bases their decisions on. Therefore, I know for sure that this person would not do something crazy. Like, for example, if someone comes up to you and said, I saw your mother last night doing a pole dance in a bar, would you believe it? No. You know your mother, she doesn't go to the bar, first of all, and she would not do a pole dance in a bar. That's crazy, right? So, because Samika Rishi knew Parikshit, meaning he knew the principles on which Parikshit makes decisions in his life. So those principles are principles that pure devotees follow. So he knew that Parikshit Maharaj was not going to take any counter action against his son, Shringi. So therefore, how could he remedy this situation? Only by praying to Krishna. So he says, and therefore Samika Rishi knew that the king would not take counteraction. Thus, there was no alternative than to place an appeal to the Lord for the immature boy. Now, now you see how devotees think. Samika Rishi is a great sage, and you could say he is also a devotee. Parikshit Maharaj is a devotee. Shringi, of course, is an immature and a non-qualified brahmana, although he has the power of cursing others. He doesn't know how to use it properly. Just like there was one boy, he turned 16, and his father is very wealthy. So I know that family very well. So for his birthday, his 16th birthday, the father bought him a BMW, new BMW. It cost like $85,000, $90,000. Right. A few months later, the boy was dead. He was racing the car, racing somebody, and he went off a cliff or something, and he died in an accident. So, he had a very powerful car, a car that can go from 0 to, let's say, 80 in a few seconds, right? But he did not have experience or knowledge. So the father gives him a gift without explaining to him, without first training him to have the equilibrium of the mind to use that powerful instrument correctly. And this, unfortunately, was the case of Shringi. He was given the knowledge of how to curse someone, even anybody, but he was not given complete knowledge of, how to properly use that power. And he misused it and got himself in a big mess. But the father is responsible. Samikya Rishi felt that he was responsible for this. And fortunately, the boy was young, and therefore he would be excused, even though he created this horrible, let's say, crime of cursing Maharaj Parikshit. It is not that only the brahmanas are powerful enough to award curses or blessings upon the subordinates. The devotee of the Lord, even though he may not be a brahmana, is more powerful than a brahmana. So, was Maharaj Parikshit a brahmana? No, he wasn't. He was a kshatriya. Right? But he's actually more powerful than a brahmana. Then Prabhupada says, but a powerful devotee never misuses the power for personal benefit. That's the point. He may use that power to stop people from blaspheming the Lord, or to protect devotees who are being unfairly persecuted. But he's not going to use that power for himself, for some issue concerning himself. But a powerful devotee never misuses the power for personal benefit. Whatever power the devotee may have is always utilized in service towards the Lord and his devotees only. Okay, so all of this is explaining the culture of pure devotees, how they do things. And now we can see there's a stark difference in the way a mundane person acts and how a devotee acts. Therefore, oftentimes it says that mundane people cannot understand the thoughts and decisions of devotees. They don't have the ability to understand. They calculate in different ways, right? So if we're taught algebra that 1 + 1 = 2 always, so how would you be able to talk to someone who knows that 1 + 1 = 1? You wouldn't be able to do it. But in the spiritual world, 1 + 1 = 1, and 1 - 1 = 1. In the material world, 1 + 1 = 2, and 1 - 1 = 0. So, therefore, you have worlds apart between the mundane person and the pure devotee. The mundane person cannot understand the actions of a pure devotee. So then they say, oh, they're crazy, or they're stupid, or they're not educated, they're village people, or whatever. They say things like that. Well, there are other examples of this. For example, we're going to go back a little bit to what we were discussing yesterday. the Mayavadis cannot understand anything, or hardly anything, about the spiritual world. And we're going to explain this more in depth now. So, this whole episode of how Sankaracharya wrote his Sarirakbhasya, which is his commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, written by Srila Vyasadeva himself. So, Sankaracharya has to respect certain things. Even if he is the smartest person in the world, or the purest devotee, or if he's not the smartest person in the world and not a pure devotee, still, acting as a brahmana, he has to follow certain rules. So, normally, you cannot insult a previous acharya. That would be a big mistake. So Sankaracharya is tasked by Lord Krishna himself, or Narayana. It says, and here's the verse, that's Madhya Lila chapter 6, verse 180. Actually, there's no fault on the part of Sankaracharya. He simply carried out the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He had to imagine some kind of interpretation, and therefore he presented a kind of Vedic literature that is full of atheism. Well, what's that Vedic literature? It's considered the Sarirakbhasya, his commentary on the Vedanta Sutra written by Vyasadeva. Addressing Lord Shiva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Please make the general populace averse to me by imagining your own interpretations of the Vedas. Also, cover me in such a way that people will take more interest in advancing material civilization just to propagate a population bereft of spiritual knowledge." And this is a quotation from the Padma Purana, Uttarakanda 62.31. And then it says, Lord Shiva informed Goddess Durga, "The superintendent of the material world, in the age of Kali, I take the form of a brahmana and explain the Vedas through false scriptures in an atheistic way, similar to Buddhist philosophy." Now, this answers the question someone asked yesterday. If Sankaracharya is an acharya, how come he's misleading people? Well, he was ordered to do it. Another interesting point is that, Prabhupada's sannyas guru has written things really blaspheming Sankaracharya. But whenever Prabhupada speaks about Sankaracharya, he also mentions that he is a bona fide acharya. Now, wait a minute. How can he say that when his sannyas guru is blaspheming Sankaracharya? Well, this brings up an interesting point. Sometimes acharyas may differ. Sometimes. So, in that case, who should we follow? So someone who's too smart will say, well, so-and-so acharya said this, and Prabhupada said that, so I think we should, have a doubt about what Prabhupada says. That would be a big mistake. Now, even if some acharyas have different opinions, we have to stick to our acharyas. So, therefore, it's Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the 6 Goswamis, coming down to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and Srila Prabhupada. That's what's called parampara. We have to stick to our acharyas. And then, later on, you'll find out as time goes on, that there was really not a difference of opinion amongst the acharyas, but there were facts that we did not know that lead us to believe that there are serious differences of opinions between the acharyas. So, and that happens all the time. When we don't know all the facts, we jump to conclusions that may be wrong and can cause a lot of havoc and turmoil. Therefore, the safest position is to stay absolutely faithful to our acharyas and our sampradaya. That doesn't mean that other people, other Vaishnavas are wrong. I mean, sometimes they can be, but there can be differences between the acharyas, different opinions, but when you take initiation in a particular sampradaya, you have to stay loyal to its acharyas. Now, let's come back to the real issue here. How did Sankaracharya mislead people in the Sarirak Bhashya? Well, it says that he engaged in what's called misinformation or misinterpretation. And unless we're able to recognize misinterpretation, we will be fooled many, many times in our life, and it can be catastrophic. So a misinterpretation is either done purposely or due to a bad habit of speculation. In the case of Sankaracharya, he did it purposely because he was ordered to do something to reestablish the authority of the Vedas and basically stop the influence of Buddhism in India. So he took a word, parinamavada, and misinterpreted it. Now, what does parinamavada mean? The real definition of parinamavada is that direct transformation. So he said that Vedavyas said that the Lord transforms himself or his energy, and thus there's the expansion of the material world, which is separate from the Lord. So he said, well, wait a minute. Parinamavada means there's a direct transformation. That means the Lord himself is transformed in order to create the material world. And he said, that's why the material world exists. But actually, he said, if I say that too emphatically, then I'm implying that Vedavyas made a mistake when he wrote the Vedanta Sutra, saying that it's a transformation of the Lord's energy. Therefore, he said, actually, Parinamavada, direct transformation, is actually Vivartavada, an illusion. It's not real. So, therefore, he said, the Lord does not have multiple energies. He has one energy. It's called Brahman, the Brahmajyoti, this effulgence. And therefore, it cannot be expanded in such a way that it would diminish his oneness or its oneness. So he's mixing up. I mean, at some point there's a mix-up of pronouns by him, his, the Lord, Brahmajyoti, impersonal. But there's a blurring there now. And therefore he said that Vyasadeva didn't make a mistake. It's just that he didn't understand the Vedanta Sutra. Of course, he wrote it himself, but he didn't understand it. So he says that it's impossible for the Brahman to expand multiple energies. It's just one energy. And therefore, the material world and the jivas that Vyasadeva claims are different energies of the Lord, like the para prakriti and apara prakriti and jiva energy and all that. He said, it's all false. There's only one energy, and all these individuals that you see, they actually don't exist. It's an illusion. So, and then his disciple, Sadananda Yogendra, went even further. He said that what you think is Krishna, what the Vaishnavas say is Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is actually tamasa buddhi, that is intelligence in ignorance. He's the sum total of intelligence and ignorance. So now what are they doing? They're going deeper and deeper into blaspheming the Lord and misinterpreting words, meanings, and building up the whole illusion. What is the illusion? The illusion is Mayavad philosophy. It has nothing to do with the world as an illusion. It's the philosophy of Mayavadis that's an illusion, and they arrive at all these false assumptions by misinterpreting the meanings of the words. That's why Lord Chaitanya, when he was speaking to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, so, by the way, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya did the same thing when he talked to Lord Chaitanya. He gave so many false interpretations of words to establish the same, to basically validate Saridak Bhasya philosophy of Vedanta. And Lord Chaitanya defeated him. Anyway, so this Parinamavada means direct transformation. But the Lord never directly transforms himself to create something. The Lord has infinite and variegated energies, and he expands those energies to create the material world, to populate it with jivas. Jivas, we are also an energy of the Lord. The material nature, the bhumi apo nalo vayu kam mano buddhireva cha ahankara iti amme bina pakritirasa, that's also an energy of the Lord. And he has all parasya shakti vivadaiva sriyate. He has multiple and inconceivable and unending energies. So unless we accept that, we become an atheist like the Mayavadis. They're saying, no, he only has one energy. And there's no Vaikuntha, there's no Goloka. That's also an illusion. There's only the Brahman. Right? Okay, so Prabhupada says, the first verse of the Brahma Sutra is Atato Brahma Jigyasa. We must inquire about the absolute truth. The second verse immediately answers, Janmadasya Yata. The absolute truth is the original source of everything. Janmadasya Yata does not suggest that the original person has been transformed. Rather, it clearly indicates that he produces this cosmic manifestation through his inconceivable energy. This is also clearly explained in the Bhagavad Gita 10.8, where Krishna says, Matak sarvam pavartate. From me, everything emanates. This is also confirmed in the Taittiriya Upanishad, Yatovai mani bhutani jayante. The Supreme Absolute Truth is that from which everything is born. Similarly, in the Mundaka Upanishad 1.1.7, it is stated, Yatorna nabi srijate grinatecha. The Lord creates and destroys the cosmic manifestation as a spider creates a web and draws it back within itself. All of these sutras indicate the transformation of the Lord's energy. It is not that the Lord undergoes direct transformation. That's the point. This is what Sankaracharya is saying, that if Vyasadeva says that the material world is created by transformation. He said, ha 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 ha. I think Vasudev made a mistake there, because Brahman cannot be transformed, otherwise it's not Brahman. Right? So he's making many mistakes here. He refuses to accept this Paramatma and Bhagavan. And he's saying there's only Brahman. And Brahman is one energy, it doesn't have multiple energies, and therefore it cannot expand into and create a material world. Therefore the material world is an illusion. Now now the number of misinterpretations now increase. Basically, what did it say? Thus Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in verse 176, thus Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu criticized Sankaracharya's Sariraka as imaginary, and he pointed out hundreds of faults in it. To defend Sankaracharya, however, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya presented unlimited opposition. The Bhattacharya presented various types of false arguments with pseudo-logic and tried to defeat his opponent in many ways. However, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu refuted all these arguments and established his own conviction. So we see this pseudo-logic and false arguments and misinterpretation. This is why today we see that what was right 50 years ago now is wrong. 50 years ago, abortion was not right. It was wrong. And now it's right. 50 years ago, little boys couldn't go into little girls' bathrooms, and big men cannot go into women's bathrooms. Now it's all right. You say, now it's legal. There's laws saying, you can't stop them. It's okay that they do that. You see, this is all based on misinterpretation and false logic, and it's all imaginary. Things are imagining these things in their mind, and then because they're judges and lawyers and things like that. Lawyers, of course, are liars. They make these laws that counteract previous laws that were based on some kind of morality. Now there's a new morality. Everything goes morality. So the Lord, all of these sutras indicate the transformation of the Lord's energy. It is not that the Lord undergoes direct transformation, which is called parinamavada. So what did Sankaracharya do? He tried to give a new definition to parinamavada, saying that direct transformation is actually vivartavada, illusion. It does not happen. But that's not the meaning of parinamavada. But he equated it to something that he created himself called vivartavada. Now, what is? But vivartavada is a term, is a proper term in Sanskrit. What does it mean? It means illusion, right? But when Vedavyas talks about illusion, when Krishna talks about illusion, it's talking specifically about thinking that I am this body, right? Mistaking the body to be the person. That's illusion. Everywhere, that's the definition of illusion in bona fide scriptures. Sankaracharya now says transformation of the Lord is actually an illusion. Direct transformation of the Lord. Well, then he created his theory of illusion called Vivartavada, although there's a real theory of illusion, right? So this is what happened, and because of that, people are misled today, and thinking that the Mayavad philosophy is true and the Vaishnava philosophy is a bunch of sentimental nonsense. Okay, so then Lord Chaitanya says, this theory of illusion can be applied only when the living entity identifies himself with the body. As far as the cosmic manifestation is concerned, it cannot be called false, although it is certainly temporary. And in the purport, Prabhupada says, the living entity is the eternal servant of Krishna, being part and parcel of the Lord. he is constitutionally pure, but due to his contact with material energy, he identifies himself with either the gross or the subtle material body. Such identification is certainly false and constitutes the genuine platform of the theory of illusion, meaning Vivartavada, right? So Sankaracharya's theory of illusion is wrong. The Vaishnava theory of illusion is correct. The living entity is eternal. He can never be subjected to the limits of time, as are his gross and subtle bodies. So this gross and subtle body is not the person. It's the soul, you see. And the soul is eternal. It's not affected by any limitations of time or the modes of nature, etc. The cosmic manifestation is never false, but it is subject to change by the influence of the time factor. For a living entity to accept this cosmic manifestation as the field for his sense enjoyment is certainly illusory. Yeah, so people say, I'm going to go to Las Vegas, to the Taj Mahal casino and have a good time. That's an illusion. You're not going to have a good time. There's no possibility of having a good time in Las Vegas. It's all an illusion. They think it's a good time, but it's not, right? So that's called illusion. That's called Vivartavada. And so this material world is the manifestation of the material energy of the Lord. This is explained by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Bhumir apo nalo vayu kam mano buddhirevacha ahankara ityame bina pakriti astata. In other words, Sankaracharya said, that's nonsense. The Lord doesn't have multiple energies. And it's all an illusion, you see. So he's contradicting. You go down the line, it's like hundreds of contradictions of Vedic pramana, Vedic facts. And he's making things up. And as he goes along, it gets more and more complicated, all the things he's making up. The material world is the inferior energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but it is not a fact that the Supreme Lord has been transformed into this material world. The Mayavadi philosophers, devoid of true understanding, have confused the theory of illusion, Vivartavada, and the theory of the cosmic manifestation. Okay, now, what's the theory of the cosmic manifestation? It's an expansion of the Lord's energies, right? It's not the Lord himself that's transformed. It's his energy. Now, what is a practical example of that? So let's take a lemon tree. Lemon tree has a trunk, has a root, has branches, has leaves, and eventually has a lemon. The lemon is the transformation of the energy of the lemon tree. Now, did the lemon tree stop existing? No. Does the lemon exist? Yes. How did it become a lemon, right? The leaf is not a lemon, the branch is not a lemon, the trunk is not a lemon, the roots are not a lemon. So the lemon is something really unique, right? It's the transformation of the energy of the tree due to photosynthesis, due to absorbing water from the earth, and due to all these different factors and the concentration of citric acid or aspartamic acid, whatever, it becomes a lemon. You know, it has a yellow color and a skin, and has inside there's juice and everything. So there's an example of transformation of energy. The tree did not stop existing. Right? The leaves are still there, the branches are still there, the root is still there. But now there's a lemon, which is the transformation of energy of the tree. So, therefore, what is the theory of the cosmic manifestation? Sankaracharya, or the Mayavadis, have confused the theory of illusion and the theory of cosmic manifestation by word jugglery. What's the word jugglery? They're saying that, Brahman is one, so it cannot be many. Therefore, what you see as being many, living entities, material world, mind, intelligence, false ego, all this is illusion. It's not real. And your Krishna and his pastimes in Vrindavan, Goloka, it's all an illusion. It's not real. The theory of illusion can be applied to a person who identifies himself with the body. The living entity is the superior energy of the Supreme Lord, and the material world is the inferior energy. Both, however, are Prakriti energy. Although the energies are simultaneously one with the Lord, different from him, the Lord never loses his personal form due to the transformation of his different energies. There it is, right there. That closes the issue. And ultimately you say, Om Purnam Ada Purnam Idam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vasishyate. So this mantra is the Vedic mantra in the Isha Upanishad, and it confirms everything that Vyasadeva has written, and it counters everything that has been misinterpreted by Sankaracharya. So, what does this mantra say? It says, it's the Invocation Mantra, Isha Upanishad. The personality of Godhead is perfect and complete. And because he's completely perfect, all emanations from him, such as this phenomenal world, are perfectly equipped as complete wholes. Not H-O-L-E, but W-H-O-L-E, right? Whole. Whatever is produced of the complete whole, W-H-O-L-E, is also complete in itself. Because he is the complete whole, even though so many complete units emanate from him, he remains the complete balance. That means he's never diminished. Even though infinite, complete things like world, planets, living entities, everything, the whole material creation, he still remains perfect and complete. Okay? So, this is real philosophy. This is the Vedic philosophy. Sankaracharya deviated significantly from this and created a whole hoax. You see. And its purport is absolutely amazing. Anyway, we can read that another time. So I'll stop right there. Are there any questions? We're going to discuss this again a little bit more tomorrow. There's more to this. But this was the gist. Are there any questions or comments?
Just to clarify, so the Upanishad establishes clearly that the original cannot transform, cannot be reduced in any capacity.
Yeah, it can transform. But it's not the person of Krishna that's transformed. It's the energy. Okay, you're speaking. Say your question again.
Yes, so the observation is that, again, in the Upanishad, because it says the Purnamada Purnamidam, so that means from the original complete whole, which is in this case the Lord himself, his energy is transformed into the material energy, into the living entities.
His energy.
Energy,
Yeah.
yes.
Right.
And then there...
Just like someone can be very, very rich. But what is his riches? He's got a lot of paper money. Or gold or jewels or something, right? Or antiques, whatever, paintings. Right? So now he wants to start a company. So he transforms his energy in the form of money and assets into machinery, buildings, cars, trucks, just like Bezos has transformed his energy. Actually, he borrowed it. He got what you call investors, right? They call them angels sometimes. So he got their money and he invested it, right? Because they had confidence that he's a good businessman and he's got a good idea and it's going to make a lot of money. You know what I'm talking about, right? So he transform the dollars into machinery, cars, software, hardware, this thing, that thing, and the cloud, and all that. He keeps pouring in his energy, creating these things, and these things are so popular that they also bring in money, and so he's able to keep expanding. Did that change Bezos himself? No, he's still the same, lousy person he was when he was poor. That hasn't changed at all. He's still, addicted to illicit sex and gambling and whatever else he does. But he expanded his energy in the form of money and transformed it, just like the plants capture the energy of the sun in the form of light and transform it into glucose and other things, right? And then they grow. They went from a seed to this big tree by transforming the energy of the sun into, mechanical energy or some kind of energy, right? Other energy. So energies can transform. They can go from kinetic energy, potential energy to kinetic energy. They can go from gravitational energy to kinetic energy in different ways. Say, so we see transformation of energy everywhere in nature. Right? Mayavadi says it's all an illusion; doesn't exist. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I think I've heard even from my friends, they give the example that just like you had a dream. This is the Mayavadi explanation of trying to say that okay, this world is an illusion. Is to say that the dream wasn't real, even though you had visualized some.
Is there some of your friends saying that?
Yeah. So this is.
They're Mayavadis.
They're Mayavadis. Yeah, I'm just.
But what? If you say, look, your wife is a dream, just loan her to me for a couple nights, would they do that? Huh?
Yeah, no, it's all complete false. And
your credit card is a dream. There's some homeless guy. Just give it to him because it's a dream. It's all a dream. Right? Would he do it? No.
I think when they want to do illegal activities, they use this argument.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's just a dream, right?
Yeah.
Come up here. And say. Are they still your friends?
Yeah.
Huh?
Classmates.
Okay, let's
So just to add to Prabhu's this.
speak in the microphone.
Yeah. So I think I seen the Madhvacharya actually when he came. So defeat this actually when the Buddha's people from following Buddhism and those things, they came to argue with him. He said, "Oh,
You mean a Buddhist?
People like who following the Buddhism, the oneness and all those, and this Mayavadi, right?" Yeah. So to defeat that, he just gave the example. Okay, they were argument are going on, and then he said, "Oh, there is a snake behind it. Where?" Then, okay, it's all illusion. Why you got scared? So something like that.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's it. So Maharaj, I have a question related to this. So.
Well, he got scared because he thinks he's the body.
Yeah. But he said that it's illusion. Like he was saying, it's all illusion, body, and everything is illusion. And then
If it's an illusion, why are you getting scared?
Yeah. That's the Madhvacharya tried to prove that, and then other person he proved that okay, if he's this, I can control my everything. I did so many years of my meditation, I can control everything. Then okay, don't go tomorrow for your bowel movement if you can control. No, it's not possible. So anyway, so he was giving example. I have a question. So there is like a similar thing, right? They might have come from this one only. So we learn the law of thermodynamics, where it is like exact same principle is used, like third law of thermodynamics in our engineering. Like energy cannot be created or cannot be destroyed. It can be just transformed from one form into another form. That's a
Well, see, that proves the eternality of matter. Matter is eternal. You can't really destroy it, because it can transform into energy, and then back to matter, so it can never be destroyed.
right.
Yeah.
So Yeah. So I was just commenting. I don't have question, but I have a question about the transformation. So when we say God has like the
By the way, a biological system violates the second law of thermodynamics. The second law of thermodynamics says in a closed system, the chaos will increase over time, right?
Yeah.
What do they call that? The entropy, increases. But not in biological, not in plants and human beings. It goes the other way. The entropy decreases, right? So they don't like to talk about that. That's why they say in a closed system, they try and get around that. But actually, everything is transforming in material nature, right? They want to say that, the natural movement in nature is decomposition. Everything is becoming random. But actually, no. We see with our own eyes, a seed develops into a big tree. That's going the other way, right? So you cannot say, oh, it's only going in one way. They try and imply that entropy will always. The law of nature is that entropy is increasing. The randomness and the chaos is increasing. So, Krishna has created everything in such a way as being perfectly controlled by him. The increase and the decrease, the chaos or the and there's no real chaos because it's completely controlled by Krishna. They talk about chaos, but there's no such thing as chaos. It's always controlled by Krishna. Okay? So they create all these false assumptions, and it leads to atheism. Go ahead.
So Maharaj, so question was, I try to understand, like, how do we understand these things when we say Krishna has two energy, like material and spiritual energy, and with the material energy he manifested all his cosmic world, and the spiritual world spiritual energy is like us, like the souls. But at the same time we say that soul was always exist, right? There was no time that I was not exist or you are not exist, and there will be no time like that. So soul was contemporary, always exist. So is it soul? Is it we say that spiritual energy? Krishna transformed his spiritual energy into souls, right? I mean, not souls, but what exactly transform into that?
Okay, first of all, Krishna creates the material world to give living entities a chance to try and live independent of him. Of course, it's impossible. So eventually they'll come back. After choosing to be independent of him, they'll come back and surrender to him eventually. Right? So that's why the material world exists. Just like in Sammamish, I remember when they first started Sammamish, right? When I first came here, there was no Sammamish. Right? It was all unincorporated King County, and this was considered part of Issaquah, but the unincorporated part of Issaquah, right? And then when they started Sammamish, they rented one of the buildings where near the Safeway, and that was the city hall. And in that building, there was a jail also. Now, why did they put a jail there? Because they knew that some people were not going to follow the rules, and they would have to arrest them, and they would have to keep them temporarily in that jail till they're transferred to the bigger jail downtown, you see. And now they have the city hall. Well, there's a jail in the city hall, right, where they temporarily keep people until they're transferred downtown. So in the same way, this material world is a jail for those people who want to misuse their limited free will to try and be independent from the Lord. And there's always going to be people like that. I mean, why did they, when they had that small office Why did they have a jail in it? Because they knew there's going to be some people that are going to break the law. They knew it. So Krishna also knows that there's some people who are going to misuse, it's a minority, but they're going to misuse their free will and try and live independent. Okay. Now, what is the function of Maya? The Maya is there to teach them that there's no way they can be independent. They're only going to suffer by trying to be independent from the Lord. And eventually, after many, many millions or billions of lifetimes, people come to that conclusion. All right? So that's the explanation of why the material world exists. You can say, well, why did he create the material world? Well, now you know. Why did they have a jail? Now you know.
Yeah, speaking about this Mayavad philosophy, so as a follower of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we have just to accept the conclusion of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. First of all, when like we spoke yesterday, when he told Sarvabhaumacharya differently, the Vedanta is brilliant, like effulgent, like it's the sun, but the Mayavad commentaries or Bhashya is actually obstructing the effulgence.
Yes.
And then Mahaprabhu says also, Jivera nistara lagi sutra kaila vyas Mayavadi bhasya sunile hoy sarvanash.
Never listen.
Never. So, especially
Never listen to the Mayavadis explaining their
every
philosophy.
discussion of the Mayavad philosophy, especially for like neophyte devotees.
Okay, then why has Prabhupada explained Mayavad philosophy? And why does Lord Chaitanya himself explain Mayavad philosophy in the Chaitanya Charitamrita?
You want to defeat them because they have a power to defeat, but not everybody has that power. Because anybody, even you may be very advanced, but dangerous to associate devotees or Mayavadis. But Mahaprabhu has the power. Only Mahaprabhu could, transform the Prakasana Sarasvati and his followers. It was not small
And Sarvabhaumacharya.
Yeah, it was not small thing.
Saraswati.
Himself.
Yeah,
Because
Keshava Kashmiri.
Yeah. And also Mahaprabhu said, he cautioned also, we shouldn't have, it's a Mayavadi Krishna Paradis, the great offenders.
They're the worst offenders.
Yeah. So when you associate the great offenders...
Well, that's what we're going to discuss tomorrow. We're going to see how many misconceptions that Sarvabhaumacharya presents to Lord Chaitanya.
Yeah. Prabhupada is the empowered personality like them. They can actually put up, those arguments.
Deconstruct the
yeah.
Mayavad philosophy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's a very, very dangerous.
But see, if we understand how Sankaracharya did this, today, the philosophers, the scientists, the writers, the politicians, they're experts in misinterpretation.
And you see, the whole world is misled.
Yes.
Because it's very powerful.
Yes.
You say one thing, the whole world might believe, but that was going on politically, For one thing, but the country divided.
Yes.
Because people believe in it.
Yeah. Well, we have to